Welcome to another episode of No Butts About It. If you're new to the show, I am your host, Josh Butts. We have Stan the Jet fan in Steubenville, Ohio, and Chus in his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We've got a pretty good show today, I think. We've got a lot of surprises that happened this weekend. Josh Dobbs, we're going to talk about him. We've got some injury updates for the Vikings. CJ Stroud had a phenomenal game. The Bengals, despite what Chus says, are the best team in the National Football League. And, of course, we've got a lot of news coming out of New York with Monday Night Football tonight. And Stan will help us kind of navigate that. But first off, if you're new to the show, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any updates. And let's just talk about Josh Dobbs real quick. So, did you guys watch the Vikings Atlanta Falcons game by chance?
I caught parts of it. I know about the situations that were going down. Their backup quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, who I don't know the name of actually at this very moment in time because he got hurt so quickly that I didn't have even a chance to even really get to do too much research on him. So sorry, Vikings fans, and sorry to that quarterback. What was his name, Joshua?
So Jaron Hall, he is
Yes.
a rookie out of BYU. He actually used to back up Zach Wilson when they were at BYU together.
Oh, that's a fun fact.
He's a fifth round pick. He did have an injury history though with concussions. So I mentioned in my video about him that I put out, hey, this guy might get injured. And like less than a quarter into the game, he got injured. Josh Dobbs, who was just traded for, gets brought in. Josh Dobbs didn't even know the players' names, who he was playing with. They didn't know his cadence. They went over cadence on the sideline. They didn't know the plays. Kevin O'Connell was telling him what the plays were going to be in his headset. This is just a phenomenal thing for a quarterback to do. I don't think people realize how insane this is.
He's a smart guy, though. I mean, Josh Dobbs, they said it when he was in Pittsburgh when they drafted him. He's a very intelligent man. Like, he is able to pick things up very quickly. And that's why I just never really understood why. I mean, obviously, the reason the Steelers didn't really give him a chance was because Ben was starting and Dobbs was the backup. But, like, I really kind of wanted him to at least get some sort of shot at starting because he's very smart and, like, he knows how to, calculate plays. So, I mean, like, he's... and that just goes beyond like football smarts. Like he's just a very intelligent man to be able to memorize all this stuff. And like they knew that way back when. I remember them talking about it. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
He's an actual rocket scientist. He has an astrophysics degree.
Yeah, he's crazy intelligent.
Yeah. Stan, didn't you used to play on the line in high school a little bit? Did you do that? Or am I making that up in my head?
I never played high school, no.
Oh, I thought you played. I had you as an offensive lineman in my head, man. I was like, Stan the Jet fan, the big wit wannabe. But nope. Anyway, I was gonna have you say that seems like it would be so difficult for the offensive line to get those cadences right, to understand what's going on. Because I mean, a lot of that is timing, and to just have a new quarterback who you've never met before, don't even really know anything about, come in and play the game and then win, that's insane. So props to Josh Dobbs for that.
No, I agree. No, go ahead, Stan.
I felt kind of betrayed by you, Josh. Myself, I was with Dom, another guy and a few other friends, and we watched the video you sent us with Jaron Hall's info and all those other guys right before the game, and I was like, I'm going to be able to recognize this guy. I'm going to know what's going on in the field, and then all of a sudden he goes out. And Joshua Dobbs comes in. I mean, Dobbs did a fantastic job. I only saw parts of that game, as I think both of you did as well. But he did an awesome job. I wish you talked more about him a little bit, and maybe in that video got a little more info on him. But I knew he was with Arizona. I've seen some of his plays. I had a good idea of who he was. But the way he presented himself to the Minnesota fandom is probably one of the craziest stories we're going to see this year from a quarterback, from a young guy like him. I mean, I'm going to remember the plays I saw from him. I'm going to remember the video he shot after the game, presenting himself to the fans for the first time. So great game, great story. Really loved it.
And he did it without Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne got hurt. Cam Akers tore his ACL during the game, and he's out for the rest of the season. So it wasn't even like we just plugged a guy in and we had a great offense around him. No, he was playing with some backups too. It was just a phenomenal display by Josh Dobbs. He had a rushing touchdown, a few really big rushes in key moments. He had to make a comeback win as well. I just was amazed by the performance he put on. I don't know what Minnesota is going to do at the quarterback position, though, now, because Kirk Cousins is out for the season. Jaron Hall is probably out for a little bit. Cam Akers was their emergency quarterback. So he's out for the season now. I mean, what did you do? Does Carson Wentz finally get a starting spot?
I mean, I don't think it'll be a starting. Like he'll probably get a certified backup position, but I don't know if it would necessarily be ever anywhere close to starting. Like after what Joshua Dobbs showed us this weekend, there's no way that Carson Wentz is going to get signed and he's going to start over Dobbs. Like he might at some point if Dobbs starts folding or something like that. But I mean, for now, like when it comes to the quarterback situation, I think what the Vikings are going to end up doing is obviously, with Hall being hurt, they're going to have to start Joshua Dobbs going into their next game. And then after that, if they win again, then regardless of if Hall comes back or not, they're probably just going to keep running with Dobbs for the most of the season, if not the rest of the season, unless Dobbs, hopefully he doesn't, but unless he gets hurt or something, then maybe they'll throw in Jaron Hall. But if Jaron Hall is out for a little bit of time, then you're probably going to have to either elevate somebody from the practice squad, which I don't know much about the Vikings practice squads or if they have any quarterbacks in their practice squad repertoire. But nonetheless, they're going to have to get a backup quarterback for at least 1 week, 2 weeks, or however long Hall's out for. But I don't think it's a very big situation here when it comes to the quarterback room. Like I really don't.
Here's the best. Sorry.
No, Stan, you go.
I was going to say, I think the best thing about Dobbs is because he's so young, he's not coming to your team with all these bad habits he picked up in the past. You can mold him. You could turn him into the ideal Vikings quarterback. So I think they should stick to Dobbs because he's so young, because he has so much potential in the horizon, and he showed that with barely any practice, with barely any preparation, that he was able to win a game for the Vikings, and it was a beautiful game. So when you have a guy performing like that who is as young as Dobbs is, I think you have to stick with him.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think Josh Dobbs wants to stick around for a little bit too, get to know people's names, because he's been on 3 teams in this calendar year. He was with the Titans, the Cardinals, and now he's with the Vikings. And so I think he's probably tired of moving. He's probably tired of the U-Haul rentals. He just wants to hang out where he's at, get some wins. And honestly, with Justin Jefferson, I believe now eligible to come off IR, it sounds like we're still going to be waiting a little bit longer for that. But to have him kind of making his way back, this could be an exciting little game that we could get. We could probably see more Ty Chandler action. Got to plug him whenever we're talking about the Vikings. Now that Cam Akers is out, they were using him a little bit in the receiving game, but I still think Ty Chandler's got that potential, and he's not getting hyped up as much as he should be.
And then Alexander Madison's over here being inconsistent, and we need consistency for the Vikings running backs after Dalvin Cook has departed and joined the Jets and has yet to do really anything for the Jets either. So I really didn't.
You weren't impressed by Dalvin Cook's performance?
Not for the Jets, no. I mean, I've been impressed with his performances in Minnesota, but and then I really thought Alexander Madison was going to be that guy. Because, you think about it, like every time that Dalvin Cook would go down, because Dalvin Cook would have like 18 projected fantasy points every week. And he would always do like 150 rushing yards, touchdown, maybe, whatever. And then every time Dalvin Cook would go down, Alexander Madison would just be there in the waiver wire, projected the same amount of points. Everybody would scramble to go get him. And then next thing you know, this dude would have the same amount of points that Dalvin Cook did. And now you would think that he would go into that role, like as for Dalvin Cook, and be like cooking. But instead, he's not cooking up anything. It's like very inconsistent. And it's like, all right, well, one day it's like a 5-course meal and he gets you, a bunch of yards receiving, or he's doing well. And then the other days he's making you freaking burnt steak. Like, I don't really understand what's happening, but that's why I mean, when it comes to Ty Chandler, though, I mean, I really think
We
that
love Ty Chandler.
we really, the inconsistency bothers me there when it comes to that position. But I think maybe Ty Chandler should be elevated a little bit more with the Cam Akers injury. But I'm not a Vikings coach. I'm not a Vikings rep, so I have no idea what they're going to do. But we'll see. All I know is that Dobbs, he's that guy right now.
Well, I'll tell you who else is that guy. Moving on. If you guys did not watch the Houston Texans game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past Sunday, you need to go watch the highlights. CJ Stroud was electric. CJ Stroud is not someone we have talked about on the show like at all. We've got our little audience tier chart here, and the Texans are all the way down here. We talk about who, this is not a team ranking, this is just where our fans are, where the people who listen to the show are. And the Texans fans have not necessarily been there, but CJ Stroud, he became must talk about football yesterday. He had 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That is the most amount of yards ever thrown by a rookie quarterback. And he had a phenomenal 46-second drill. He drove all the way down the field to get the game-winning touchdown against the Buccaneers defense. I was like, dude, where have you been? He showed up.
I mean, it's not like he hasn't been around. It's just nothing like as crazy as that. Because he has been winning games. I mean, their team's 4-4, so it's not like he hasn't been doing nothing. I mean, he has been doing some stuff. It's just not been like, I guess, more or less newsworthy. Like, this is the first time it's been like super newsworthy. But I think I'm most impressed with the fact that he's an Ohio State quarterback that's actually doing this well, because these Ohio State quarterbacks can't win for crap. But that's not actually in college. They can do great in college, but for some reason when they come to the NFL, it's just statistically shown that they do not succeed well. So maybe Stroud will break that curse. I mean, you hope for him, because he looks very, very promising, especially with the fact that the Texans don't really have like a stud wide receiver. I mean, Nico Collins is okay. He's good. You have like Tank Dell, who's like still pretty decent. Like, he's all right. But like, I mean, it's not like their team is some like, you don't have like a Justin Jefferson on your team, that's like, oh, well, Stroud's just good because he has Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill or something like that. No, I mean, this guy is like working with what he's got, and he's making them look good. I mean, he's beaten teams that like really like, either like, I know Tampa Bay doesn't have that good of a record, but I mean, he's beaten like, they shut down the Steelers. I mean, I'm not saying the Steelers are like the best team ever, but you put up 30 points and allow the Steelers to only put up 6. Like, that's pretty impressive. That was only like week 3 or 4, So that's like, I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with Houston this year, and I wouldn't sleep on them in the AFC either, because they could easily sneak into that spot if some losses happen. So
I don't know if I just haven't been watching the right media. I've seen people be like, well, CJ Stroud's going to win Rookie of the Year because he's a quarterback. But I haven't seen anyone really point out how good CJ Stroud has been doing. I know we haven't. And maybe I just have been an idiot. That's entirely possible. But I don't want to do this. Like, I don't hate doing this to you, but I want to preface, Chus, I'm not only doing this because it is Kenny Pickett.
I know what this stat is. Yeah.
CJ Stroud already has more career touchdowns than Kenny Pickett does. That is wild.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a like a Kenny Pickett problem, or if that's a offense problem, but I mean, that's just very insane, because I mean, dude's already got freaking he is insane. It doesn't say how many touchdowns he has. I mean, he has 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he has like 14 touchdowets.
CJ Stroud has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception.
But look at Stroud's numbers though. Like, look at this guy's numbers, and this has anything to do with like Kenny Pickett. I just wanted to talk about like how good like Stroud has been doing like this season. So, first game against Baltimore, he had 242 yards passing, 1 fumble. Okay, no touchdowns, nothing like that. Then in the second game against Indianapolis, he had 384 passing yards and 2 touchdowns and 1 fumble. And then 280 yards against Jacksonville, 2 touchdowns. Against Pittsburgh, 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against Atlanta, 249 yards and a touchdown. New Orleans, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. The bye week, Carolina, 140 yards. That was just a weird game. And then he blows up 470 yards, 5 touchdowns. So it's not like this guy hasn't been doing like he just like came out of thin air and he just started doing stuff. Like, I just don't think media is talking about him. I think this is the only way that he got to that platform because he's consistently been getting over 200 yards passing. And I don't really know what Bryce Young's been doing, but like I don't know if he's even close to the numbers that Stroud's had.
No, I saw Bryce Young. I saw a stat, and it was like people who have caught touchdowns by Bryce Young. 2 of them were pick sixes by Kenny Moore yesterday against the Colts. He was in second. The only person ahead of him was Adam Thielen, who is on the Panthers, and he had 3.
Yeah.
So that's how Bryce Young is doing.
Carolina's a mess. I don't really know what's going on there.
But yeah, CJ Stroud, man, he might be challenging that Ohio State stereotype that you brought up before.
Yeah, and I hope he does because it's kind of sad to see like, you know, these Ohio State quarterbacks do so well in college, and then every single time they get drafted, like first, second, third round even, they just don't do anything. So I hope he does break that stereotype because it would be really nice to see some of these Ohio State quarterbacks actually do well, or at least one of them, I guess. Take one of them, I guess. So
there was also a rumor back during the draft that like everyone except for the owner or something in Carolina wanted CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. But because the owner wanted Bryce Young, they went with Bryce Young.
They should have went with Stroud because Stroud probably would have made that team look good.
CJ Stroud.
You put some like decent wide receivers out there too. You build up that team with Stroud. You build it around Stroud. That Houston team could be really, really scary in the next couple of years. You could, and I mean this might be far fetched, but you could be building a dynasty very soon in Houston. You could be, because like this is exactly how they did it with Kansas City. I mean, like they had the team, they were starting to build it up, and then when you put Patrick Mahomes in there, they just like worked every player around Patrick Mahomes, and now dude's a superstar. Now, granted, I don't know if Stroud will ever reach that heights with like Patrick Mahomes, but it's still very interesting to see that like, you know, Stroud's already showing like really, really, really good numbers with what he has. And I mean, Patrick Mahomes had very talented guys when he first played, but I don't know. There's a lot with it because if he's doing well with decent guys, imagine what he would do with amazing guys. Like you get those first round wide receivers. You know, once you build up your defense or your offensive line, you know, just get some draft picks or sign some people. This team might be crazy.
And Houston as an organization, they've shown in the last few years that they're pretty good at developing quarterbacks. I mean, Davis Mills, who really wasn't a big prospect, he performed very well for them. And before him, Deshaun Watson, you know, he's not really doing too hot with the Browns right now, but with that organization, he was doing very well. So CJ Stroud might also be in one of the best locations for him to be. You know, as a Jets fan, I look at us, and we don't really have the best track record with developing quarterbacks. So I think for Stroud, you know, good for him. He's on the right team. He's in the right system. I really hope he could pull it all together.
Yeah, I don't even know. D'Amico Ryans is a defensive mind, so that's why I'm kind of surprised how well Stroud has already come out with D'Amico Ryans in his first year as a head coach, and he's a defensive-minded coach.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, CJ Stroud is going to be a guy, and the AFC South had better watch out. I was trying to see here what pick. Okay, so the only round 1 pick that the Texans have right now is from Cleveland, it appears. So
it depends on where Cleveland lands.
I was seeing if they could maybe get Marvin Harrison Jr. I didn't know how those things. I don't think Cleveland's going to be that bad, though. Maybe. We'll see.
But I mean, still, you're going to get like a late second or first round, like, you know, in the 20s maybe.
Right.
Because I'm not it's weird because Cleveland's schedule, like, their team is very good defensively. So, and if they win games defensively, like the Steelers are doing and stuff, they could easily get that like 22nd, 21st, 23rd spot or whatever for the, Houston Texans, or maybe they'll plummet. I mean, Cleveland does have an easier schedule than like the Bengals do, for example, or even the Ravens going forward. But like, I don't know. Maybe Cleveland will like crap themselves or something. I mean, I guess only an AFC North fan can hope. Steelers fan, Bengals fan, just
Truss he's just given those jabs about the Bengals the entire, and so we did have one thing, and it's not a huge thing. I just wanted to mention it. Kyler Murray is possibly going to start this week.
Yes,
according to head coach Jonathan Gannon. If you watched the Arizona game, you were probably so thankful for that because Clayton Tune played horrible. The rookie, Joe Camo of the Cardinal Rule, he tweeted he had a 28.8 PFF grade, and that seems generous. So, granted, it was against Cleveland's defense that just absolutely
just
battered
smothered
him and did whatever they wanted. But yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, that game was not good. I really thought the Cardinals could win, but I was very wrong on that
and
call.
When I was researching for Clayton Tune, I was like, okay, there's got to be something good about him, right? No, he's only became the starter because University of Houston starting quarterback decided to sit out, and then he went in 2020. He had 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. His final season, he did 30 touchdowns for 10 interceptions, but even that, I was like, that's a lot of turnovers in college, and the NFL is going to be way worse.
Yeah, he's gonna be throwing like Jameis Winston out there. Yeah, 30 for 30.
I'm sure Cardinals fans will be very happy to have Mr. Kyler Murray back. Now, here is what Chuss has been kind of jabbing the entire show about. The Bengals won last night. They won very well last night against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football.
It was 24-18, yes.
But, okay, that one, it was a good win. It was a good win. I even have your text receipt here where you say Bengals pick up a big win against the Bills.
They do, and yes. I do agree with that. But the quote that I had to edit out before in the chat was, and I quote, "The Bengals are the greatest football team to ever exist." Sunday Night Football recap.
Yes,
and I 100% disagree because they are 5-3 for one, and number two, there are a lot of better football teams out there of all time than the Bengals. So
you're stuck in the past. I'm living in the present.
You said of all time.
Yeah.
But of all time, that means we got to look back at like the 70s Dallas Cowboys, Steelers, going far back.
We got more swagger. Bengals got more swagger than those guys.
Hey, man, they still got more Super Bowls than you. So
Logan Wilson is a linebacker, and he is tied for second or third, I think, for most interceptions in the NFL. Trey Hendrickson is up there. He might be top 5 now. I don't remember, for most sacks in the NFL. We got Dax Hill and CTB have 2 interceptions each, so they're going to be right up there for second in interceptions pretty soon. We have the best turnover differential in the NFL, +9, by the way. We have created 9 more turnovers than what we have given. And Joe Burrow's back. That's all you need to know. Joe Burrow's back. And he was throwing left and right. T. Higgins had a great game. Our tight ends had a great game. I want to apologize, actually. I am going to apologize to Nick Scott. If there is a person who I have hated on more on this show than anyone else, it is our safety, Nick Scott. You know what, buddy? You forced a fumble last night, so you've moved up a tier in my heart. Another guy, Irv Smith Jr., the starting tight end, you got a touchdown last night. You came out and you proved that we didn't need to trade you. Tanner Hudson came right off the practice squad, had a few big catches. Even Drew Sample, he was one of the fastest people on the field last night. Our tight end, we're going to be fine. We're doing great. I love this team.
This is the point in the season where Josh realizes that his team is just so unbeatable, but somehow they'll still lose in the playoffs.
No, we're
Just
going.
let him. Everybody at home, just let him enjoy his fun because this happens every year.
It happened. Okay.
We did this last year too, because you were
last year
the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. They are the greatest team. I've never seen a better Bengals team ever. You thought last year was good, just wait until this year. So we've seen this before, Josh.
In this podcast existence, I have been right 50% of the time.
50%.
Right the first year. And we lost because of a BS holding call against Logan Wilson. Last year, we only lost the AFC Championship game because of a BS late hit on Patrick Mahomes against Joseph Asai, which the same exact hit happened in the Dolphins-Chiefs game with Van Ginkel, and they were like, oh no, that would never be called a late hit, ever. Why would that ever be called a late hit? And Bengals Twitter erupted.
So we'll see what happens, though.
What did you see last night that you're like, there are holes with the Bengals? What are the problems?
I didn't say necessarily that it's like the holes or anything. I mean, I feel like there's definitely some things that you could work on. I mean, first of all, yes, I think that your secondary is good, but I don't think it's like great. I think it is decent. I think it is pretty good, and you guys are winning games. But for a complete team, you need to be like offensively putting up good points and shutting down teams defensively to be considered a complete team. And the argument that you were making yesterday is the Bengals are the only complete complete NFL team at this moment. And I disagreed because I thought it was the Eagles, but in my statement, that would mean that the Eagles are not complete either because they've let up a lot of points. Granted, they've clutched up in a lot of games too, but they haven't, gotten to that point. I feel like it's very hard to be a very complete team in this NFL nowadays. Like back in the day, it might have been a lot easier, but it's very hard to be so complete that you are perfect to the point where you're like me in Retro Bowl where you're winning 31-10 every game or more, because obviously you're going to have those divisional games where you're going to keep them close and stuff like that. But I feel like in some instances, you guys have been shutting down a lot of teams recently, which is good. But San Francisco did have the injuries. Buffalo, for whatever reason, has been struggling. I really want to see what you guys do the next couple of weeks against these other AFC teams. And I genuinely mean that because you guys are 4-0 against NFC teams, but you have won one AFC game so far. So I want to see what you do against these other AFC teams because, the Colts beat Baltimore. The Colts lost by 1 to Cleveland. So obviously the Colts are out to get the AFC North teams this year. I want to see what you do against your other divisional games because you've only played two divisional games. So, and I mean, and regardless of what's happening with the other teams, yes, Steelers are mediocre. Cleveland doesn't have an offense and Baltimore is still Baltimore for whatever reason. They're ups and downs or whatever. So if I want to see what you guys can do against Cleveland's defense. Can you stop the Steelers' mediocrity? Can you actually blow them out, or will you fall victim to the Steelers' mediocrity? There's a lot of things that I want to see, and these next couple of weeks, the rest of the season is actually going to show so much because you'll have one more NFC game, and the rest are AFC games. So, and some of them are against the Chiefs, and you've got do you still have to play Houston?
We have Houston this coming week.
Yes,
Chiefs are later in the season. Colts are December 10th. We have both Steelers games. One Ravens game.
One Ravens, one Browns. Yeah. So I'm very curious to see what you guys do because then at that point I'll be able to make the argument that I was also making yesterday was you guys are 5-3 in a playoff spot. If the Jets win tonight, you will fall out of that playoff spot because you don't have as many AFC wins. And that was the flaw that the Steelers had last year, was that they had more NFC wins than they did AFC wins. And because of that, Miami jumped us and there was all that other BS that was going on. So all I'm saying is just ride it out. And we'll talk about this conversation later in the season before we call the Bengals the greatest team ever.
I'm just, these boys. We got Yoshi. Yoshi's got more he's our wide receiver 6, and he has more touchdowns than Zay Flowers.
Well, Zay Flowers, buddy cannot get a touchdown for his life. I mean, he I don't know what the heck's happening with him. I mean, he has good yardage. He just isn't catching those tutties. I
I
don't
was
know what's
worried about
happening.
our tight ends, and to see our tight ends playing well, that was felt good. And to see Nick Scott do something was beautiful.
Because I don't think the Bengals are a bad team. I just don't want you to get ahead of yourself to the point where
Oh,
like
I am
you end
so
up,
ahead of
and
myself.
that's the problem is because like you're gonna end up in this world where you're like, this is our year, and then if you guys lose in some tragic way in the wild card, you're going to be so devastated that you're going to be drinking whiskey straight from the handle. Yeah, right out of your butsy
Started.
Bengals. Yeah, right out of the Bengals butsy cup. So, but yeah, I mean, you guys will
Now
be fine. I am curious to see though. Nonetheless, I mean, so we'll see what happens.
we have this man. That's all we need.
Joe Burrow.
Joseph Lee Burrow.
I think you need Zach Mettenberger as your backup.
I don't know where his card went. I had it here.
What? I just
no, it's in the pile.
I bought Zach
You
Mettenberger's
You
card.
just bought it, and it's in the pile to be mailed out. I just don't know where that pile is.
It's fine. It's fine.
Stan, did you have thoughts on Sunday Night Football?
It was a great game. I'd say I'm definitely leaning more towards Chuss's side. My main thing is the AFC is so much harder than the NFC this year, and I don't think there's been such a big difference that I've noticed at least up until this year. So, I think you got to kind of sit tight for now. Hope your team can keep it going, but we'll see what they do.
I'm so hyped. Although I am a bit worried now because no one who listens to the show knows who this is, but Brendan, our friend who knows nothing about football, the last 2 years has randomly picked teams to root for. 2021, he picked the Rams just based on their jerseys. They won the Super Bowl. Last year, he picked the Eagles. They went to the Super Bowl. So this year, for the record, guys, he is cheering for the Lions. So Detroit Lions fans, there you go. You're going to the Super Bowl. I get why you guys are concerned though, but it's okay. It's our year. Just gonna leave it at that. Stan, now it's your time.
Because we're all three of us have like the almost identical records right now, and me and Stan are just happy with what we got right now. So like, and that might just be because of differences of teams, but yeah.
And I'm like, send it. I'm ready. I am ready to completely overreact to our win in the middle of the season on Sunday Night Football. Stan, now's your time. The New York block is what we're going to call the rest of the show. Daniel Jones, he tore his ACL. He is yet another quarterback to fall victim to this. Now both quarterbacks in New York have fallen to the ACL, well, New Jersey technically, have fallen to the ACL injury. So Daniel Jones's replacement would currently be Tommy DeVito, who is a rookie that I have not made a video about because I didn't think this was going to be an issue. What do you think about Tommy DeVito? From what we've seen a little bit of him, but what have you thought so far?
Well, he's not great, but I mean, what are you gonna do if you're the Giants? You're not really looking to playoffs right now. You're already kind of out of the season. I think it's better to develop Tommy DeVito and hopefully get some better quarterback here. If I'm the Giants, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to sign guys like Chris Trevler. I'm going to try to get him in the building, try working him out, get some of those younger free agents, maybe pick up some guys off practice squads. But do whatever I can to find some hope for the future. Get someone in the building who might be a future starter. It's a rough situation for the Giants, but there's not really a whole lot you can do. I think they probably should have traded off some people before the trade deadline. Now it's too late. Now they don't have those picks. They're going to have to hope they could re-sign as many of those guys as they can and try to keep their level the same. If I'm a Giants fan, I'm going to be in the same spot that I was the last so many years as a Jets fan, which at this point of the season is looking at the draft. So Giants fans, I'm sorry, but it's time to hope your team can get one of these great quarterbacks. It's going to be a good draft.
Yeah, quarterbacks are definitely a very good look this year. Hopefully, I mean, then again, we had a lot of pretty okay quarterbacks coming out of this past draft. I mean, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and CJ Stroud. So if you get three more decent quarterbacks, Giants might be in good company with some decent quarterbacks coming up. So I agree with Stan with that.
Do you think they'll draft a quarterback after re-signing Daniel Jones?
That Stan, you want to talk about that, because that's actually an interesting
Based
thought.
on Jones' play this year, I think they should look forward. I mean, I don't think Daniel Jones is the future. I think their best bet is to try to trade him to a team that thinks they can do something with him. Kind of what the Jets did with Sam Darnold. But because of how much money they're giving him, that's going to be really tough to do. The thing is, I thought the Daniel Jones decision wasn't the best when they first made that decision. I think they were kind of freaking out over the fact that quarterbacks are the premium position in the NFL. You know, you're going to have to pay a quarterback a lot. I think they probably could have paid Jones a little bit less, or I think they should have gone to some other avenue. But if Jones has proven one thing this season, it's that he is not the quarterback of the future. That being said, I said that about Zach Wilson, and now Zach Wilson is having his best season yet. So maybe Jones is going to turn around somehow after he heals from this injury. But I think at the very least you should draft someone. If not for this next season, at least for 2 seasons from now, maybe have a starter. Maybe do what Green Bay did with Jordan Love. Have some guy in the building who has future potential. Have him play your backup, and maybe if Jones does what he did this year, throw him into the starting lineup. But I think you have to draft at least one quarterback this offseason.
What about, just to finish out the year? I mean, maybe you're tanking at this point, but what about this another place Carson Wentz could show up, or Cam Newton? We know Cam Newton won't sign with the Jets for $5.5 million, but maybe he'll sign with the Giants for $6 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an option. I think if I'm the Giants, though, I'm definitely going to target younger guys, because Cam Newton and Wentz, they get you maybe a couple of seasons, of good quality quarterback play. But at this point in time, especially with the way your division is looking, I mean, even Washington, Washington isn't that bad of a team. So you're talking about 3 teams that are right now in the playoff contention. I think you have to go for younger guys, because Newton and Wentz, they're going to get you maybe 1 season of average play, and then after that, who knows what's going to be. I think you should look for younger guys, and I'm not saying I don't think they should tank. Still win as many games as you can. Winning games at the very least, it's going to help you attract better free agents. But I think what they have to do is look for the younger guys. And Chris Streveler is a name I mentioned because I'm a big Chris Streveler fan. I love him. I do.
Streveler.
And he's a free agent right now. He's played in MetLife before. He's played very well in MetLife before. Maybe you just get him onto your team. See if he can play well. And if he can play well, give him the starting position. If he can't, then guess what? You only spend, $1 million max? So I think that's what you have to do. Look for these young guys who are on cheap contracts who have upside.
How old is Chris Streveler? 28?
Yeah.
He's 28 years old. So, I mean, not too old. He could still give you a few good years. So, okay, well, those are some interesting thoughts surrounding the New York Giants, but we do have a football game tonight.
But real quick, what about another quarterback? What about instead of Zach Mettenberger, what about Trace McSorley? Why doesn't Trace McSorley go to the Giants?
Oh, dude, Trace McSorley. Chuss is the king of pulling out random quarterbacks, but Trace McSorley is a guy that I have a heart for because of the greatest song ever made regarding a Penn State quarterback.
Yeah, I Trace McSorley. I think he should, because I don't want to milk the Zach Mettenberger thing too much, because I needed another quarterback. Trace McSorley, 28 years old, he's solid.
Throws it on a dime without even trying.
But yeah, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, I know you were saying we do have a game coming up here within the next half hour ish.
Yeah. Chris Stapleton's going to sing the Monday Night Anthem pretty soon. So before that happens, though, Stan, we've seen Aaron Rodgers is now walking without a cart to get around the stadium. He's just walking around, strolling. We've seen him throwing on the field the past few weeks. Are we going to see Aaron Rodgers actually make a comeback?
According to what he said on Instagram, or what he's hinting at on Instagram, is he believes he's going to make it for the 28th of December, which is going to be against the Browns, which I think is a team that's going to push us. So if he can be there for that game, that's a big improvement for us. And the second game, the final game of the season we have after that game that he says he's going to be back for is against the Patriots. And, we've seen the Patriots, somehow beat us this year. Even at their worst in the last, 30, 40 years, their worst point, they still beat the Jets. So having him for those two teams, that could be the difference between a wildcard spot and sitting out of the playoffs. So I really hope he can make it. He looks like he's going to make it for the 28th of December. It's going to be a great night. According to him, according to his doctor, he is healthy enough and he is in a position where he is going to make a full recovery in time for not just the playoffs, but actually the season, right? He's going to make the final 2 weeks of the season. So if this is true, that's a game changer for the Jets. And I think it puts a lot more pressure on Zach Wilson, the offense, these next couple of weeks as they play, the Chargers, which is a very winnable game. Let's see a win tonight. Let's see a win next week against the Raiders, who just now have their best game of the season. So that's looking to be more of a challenge. But if I'm a New York Jets player, I'm feeling very excited because the best quarterback, that we've had in a long time is going to make it back. So if I'm Breece Hall, if I'm Garrett Wilson, if I'm any of these young guys on this team, I'm going to really give it all, my all these next few weeks. Make sure that Aaron Rodgers comes back to a team with a winnable situation.
That'll be insane. And they've got a formidable team tonight that they're going up against in the LA Chargers. To continue, another AFC team that is seeking some playoff hopes. And the New York Jets are going to want to beat them to get them into that position that you're talking about so that Aaron Rodgers can come back and chase a Super Bowl with you guys, even though the Bengals are going to win it. What do you expect to see tonight from Zach Wilson, the New York Jets, and your defense against this LA Chargers offense?
The weird thing about this game, right? I think the Jets' strength is our defense, and our offense tends to suck. The Chargers have the exact opposite problem. Their offense is amazing. Their defense is where they tend to have their struggles. So you're seeing two teams where their weaknesses and strengths are lining up perfectly. It's going to be a really good game, I think. I mean, the big question for me is, will Zach Wilson, against probably the weakest defense he's played this year, will he be able to succeed? And if he can't, what does that say about the rest of the season? What does it say about the Raiders, who hate Josh McDaniels so much they put up their best game the first game without him, right? So what does that say about the next few weeks? What does it say about the Dolphins, who we haven't played once yet? We're going to play them twice this year, both pretty soon, coming up, two big games. There's a lot of questions that I think are going to get answered this night. And, for me, I'm feeling good about Zach Wilson. That last win against the Giants, it wasn't the prettiest win, but Zach Wilson played pretty well. I mean, a lot of the issues I think were from drops from receivers, mainly that Lazard. I mean, he just didn't really have a great game at all. I think for the Jets right now, our biggest hole is actually in the wide receiver room, which I would not have said at the beginning of the season. Because after Lazard, we have two good wide receivers, and then it's Randall Cobb. There's not really a hole out there. Apparently, we tried to get Devontae Adams over the trade deadline, but that seems like it's going to be more of an off-season move if it ever does happen. It's a tricky situation just because I don't know how this offense is going to look. I'm very excited, though. Looking at the running back room, we have good running backs. I really, really want to see Israel Abanikanda make some plays tonight. I've seen a lot of potential for him, and I really want to see him play in the regular season. Some people think he is going to get some snaps tonight. Some people think we're going to see a lot less of Dalvin Cook, who hasn't done a great job at all, who we tried to trade away but just couldn't find another team. Out of the 31 other teams in the NFL, none of them wanted Dalvin Cook. So maybe we see some Izzy Abanikanda. Maybe we see some plays from him. I really want to see that. I want to see Michael Carter get involved, which he always does. And I want to see Breece Hall do what he's been doing, which is be one of the best running backs, a top 10 running back in the NFL.
Josh, do you want to tell us why you were so hyped about Israel Abanikanda?
Yeah, because Israel Abanikanda is such a good running back, and he is so underrated. But he came from the University of Pittsburgh, and he gave a lot of very bright points in a very sad 2022 Pitt season. Very disappointing coming off of such a amazing 2021 Kenny Pickett World Tour, just beating 10 different teams and beating Wake Forest to go and be the ACC champions. So, and Israel Vandekanda was a part of that roster. So, he's shown a lot of promise, and me and my buddy Tim are and have been so high on him since like 2020 when he played against, I don't even remember what team it was, but it was a cupcake game in 2020. It was the first game of the season. And the next thing you know, Israel Bandicana goes in because we're just blowing out this team. And I just remember he was like, oh, that's Israel Bandicanda. And Israel Bandicanda went on to score a touchdown or 2 touchdowns or whatever. And I'm like, but he's going to be a stud. I even actually messaged him and I said, you're going to be a legend. Or Tim messaged him and said, you were going to be a legend. And he liked the DM. And then I ended up like, he was doing like questions and answers, and he was like, ask me anything. And I didn't even ask him a question. I'm just like, you're a GOAT. And he like responded to it. I was like, I love that man. I love Israel Bandican, and I really want him to do well.
Well, Stan, you're saying we might see him tonight?
That's what the internet is saying. I'm hoping. I really want to see him.
I hope so.
I really want to see him. I'm very much worried, though, that the coaching staff for the Jets is going to be a little too focused on trying to turn around Dalvin Cook. Which, the thing is, Cook's last 2 games, or not the last game, the game before, was probably his best of the season. So he's looking a little better. He's looking a little smarter out there. But he's just not who he used to be. And I think it's about time we see some Izzy Abanikanda make the field. And people on the internet, which, they're usually wrong, but they believe that we're going to see him tonight. So I hope we do.
Well, hopefully the people on the internet are correct for Chuss's sake. If you had to build yourself a parlay here tonight, and also, first, before I ask you that, do you think that the Jets offensive line is going to be able to keep Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa from just making Zach Wilson's life a living hell?
But Zach Wilson has gone up against some amazing defensive lines this year. The thing is, one of the biggest complaints I had about Zach Wilson going into the season was that he holds onto the ball way too long. He tries to force plays. And you know what I've seen in the last couple of weeks? That he hasn't been doing that. So even if he's not, in a clean pocket every single snap, if he just doesn't force the ball, I think we're going to be completely fine. I think what's more important is that the Chargers don't have great cornerbacks. They don't have the greatest defensive back room. They don't even have great linebackers anymore, right? That their defensive line is about all they have. So I think we could see a lot of tight end sets where you see Uzoma, who's a great blocking tight end. We see him, joining the line, keeping, Bosa and that D line off. And I think that's going to create a situation where Wilson will be able to make the correct reads. And as we've seen this season, when he doesn't make the correct reads, at least he's not going to throw away an interception every single time.
Okay, now for the parlay question. Does Zach Wilson get 200 yards?
I'm going to go with no.
No? Okay. Does Breece Hall get over 60 yards?
I think that's very certain. I think he's going to. Barring any injury.
You think how many yards do you think he gets tonight?
I think he will. I mean, the Jets offense has been running through Breece Hall, and in this type of game where I'm expecting it, to be, okay, so Breece Hall's strength is finding the holes. He's kind of similar to Le'Veon Bell, where he can wait there in the backfield a little bit before he makes those moves, right? He's very smart. He's very calculated. Now, against the Chargers, a team that doesn't have the best defensive backs, that means he's going to get beyond that D-line enough where he's going to have an open field, or at least he's going to have, those glimpses of the open field. Those are the positions where Breece Hall tends to succeed the most. That's where he has his big plays. And that strength of Breece Hall is exactly the weakness of the Chargers. So I think he's going to have probably one of his best best games of the season, barring any injury.
Okay. And then Garrett Wilson, what do you think his receiving yards are going to be?
I'm going to go to touchdown and 75.
Woo, touchdown. Anytime touchdown. Mark it. Send it in. Stan the Jeff fan says Garrett Wilson's getting an anytime touchdown.
I'm going to say combined. This is another. I'm going to go with a combined 70 tight end yards.
Combined 70, so between Conklin and
which
Uzomah?
Now I realize is making my Zach Wilson prediction look kind of bad.
100, 140, 155 yards. So
Yeah,
still under 200. As long as he doesn't throw to
Zach
anyone
Wilson,
else.
you proved me wrong once before the season. Please do it again.
Zach Wilson's about to go out for 400 and just obliterate you. But did you have anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up the show?
I mean, honestly, I just want to wrap up this show so I can go and watch that game.
Okay, fair enough. And Chus, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm just looking to see if I have the screenshot of him answering my question. I know my friend Tim sent me the thing more recently about like you're gonna be a legend and it was a heart or whatever. But I just can't find the one of me getting the response from him. So I don't
Hopefully
know if I
he'll be
screenshot it.
on the show one day, and then
Yeah,
we
we can
can
talk about it.
Talk about it then. But I will read the spiel very slowly, so that when you find it, you can show us, or if you find it,
I don't
you can
even
show
know if
us.
I don't even know if I have. Just keep going.
Thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help us out. YouTube wants watch hours and subscriptions to like make this so that it's something we can live off of, and we enjoy doing it. So just hitting that little button helps us out a lot. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Butts Show. Our social media pages are NoButts_show on Instagram and No Butts Show on TikTok. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. And if you would like to reach us, you can email us at bullmoosepodcast2. That's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop will be in the description, so check out the merch. That also helps us out a lot. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, go do something nice for someone. Chus, did you find the screenshot?
No, I didn't.
No?
You didn't have to go
Okay.
that slow. It was actually kind of like bugging me a little bit because usually you're more enthusiastic, but today you were
I felt
very,
weird reading it too.
yeah. So,
well,
but
until next time.
I haven't seen anything yet. Trying to find it,
Okay.
but not
Until
that big of
next
a deal.
time, go do something nice for someone.